We are living amidst one of the greatest humanitarian crises our world has ever known. It's unfortunate to think of this statement as non-surprising. Issues such as poverty, environmental degradation, gender inequality, and slavery all come to mind. These, however, are merely symptoms to a much larger issue, in my opinion. The world's greatest humanitarian crisis is our own lack of humanity. Our inability to see one another and to recognize the humanity we share is damaging our planet and its people in an exponential manner. What would you say, though, if I were to tell you that there's one simple decision that we make every day that could begin to solve this crisis as well as the social ills I mentioned? I believe our personal fashion, the clothing that we purchase and wear every day, has the power to change our world for the better and to begin to unite us in a shared sense of humanity. It simply comes down to knowing who made your clothes. Allow me to explain. 1 in 6 people on the planet work as a part of the global fashion industry. From raw materials to production, design to sales, our clothing has become a $3 trillion business internationally. You don't have to look farther than the seat in front of you to understand the scale of this industry, as well as its integration into our daily lives. After all, we're all wearing clothes. Except for the one naked guy in the back. Thanks for coming, Gary. Good to see you. Made you look. What's not so obvious, however, is that it also happens to be the second largest polluter of our planet, and it's filled with human rights injustices such as slavery, gender inequality, and child labor. Today, garment manufacturing is one of the largest contributors to modern-day slavery, over 70% of this population being female. Needless to say, I find it quite absurd that more of us have an awareness of whether the eggs we purchased were produced by cage-free chickens than whether the clothes we wear were made by people who were treated fairly. This has to change. But until it does, it will unfortunately serve as a reminder of the disconnectedness we share with our fellow humans. Our obsession with inexpensive, trend-focused clothing, otherwise known as fast fashion, is forcing suppliers to cut costs, which in turn is creating grave consequences for our planet and the millions of people who are part of the manufacturing process. And yet, amidst all of these challenges, I think there is reason to believe that the clothing we wear can actually better connect our world. We just have to look at it from a more human point of view. But before I get any further, I have to share with you all my unlikely road to becoming the co-founder of 2 ethical fashion brands and witnessing the power of using clothing to connect people. In high school, I learned to crochet from a very unlikely source, my older brother. My friends and I subsequently started a headwear company selling custom hats to skiers and snowboarders in the Pacific Northwest, and we were creatively dubbed the Crochet Kids. Our hat empire grew rapidly based on the novelty of adolescent boys mastering a traditionally elderly craft. We spent the majority of the money earned at that time in the most important way we could think of: our senior prom. Pastel tuxes with ruffles and cummerbunds, a sunrise hot air balloon ride for our prom dates, the works. Years later, we would spend the remainder of our earnings officially incorporating our business, but with a new twist. We would travel to Uganda to train war-affected women how to crochet as a means of restoring dignity and self-reliance through job creation. A simple phrase had kickstarted this notion to give work instead of donations or handouts, and it was a sentiment expressed to us by people on previous volunteer trips abroad. 4 words repeated over and over. We want to work. Choosing to see people, to listen, and to understand their desires sent us on a journey of learning what it meant to address people and not the statistics that they made up. The summer of 2007 came along and it changed my life forever. After a year of planning and coordinating with organizations on the ground, myself and a group of fellow university students traveled to Uganda to train women in our craft. Shortly after I arrived in country, we had our first day of crochet training. Nervously, 20 of us crammed into a small room in a rural community in the northern part of Uganda. On one side, you had women, many of whom were human trafficking survivors who had experienced decades of conflict and rebel army violence in their communities. And on the other side, us visitors, predominantly male, all white, privileged to degrees we had not yet understood until that very moment. By every measure, our life experiences were worlds apart, and we were all a little bit unsure as to whether we would be able to relate at any level. The tension and uneasiness was palpable in the room. Yet over the course of the day, as we sat together, fumbled through crocheting, sang the Beatles loudly, and laughed even louder, one thing became clear. We actually shared more in common in our humanity than we held different. A simple yet profound realization that would have far-reaching impacts. Alice, the young woman that I was paired with to teach crocheting, produced a nearly flawless hat on her first attempt. And very little of that had to do with her instructor, by the way. This gave us all great hope for not only the beautiful products we'd be able to create, but even more for the opportunity we'd have to connect others to the amazing individuals who made them. A thought resounded in my head that day. People are people are people are people. This is what I've devoted my life to ever since, connecting people in an effort to break down misconceptions and to unite us in our common experiences. My mechanism for doing this has been clothing. What started out as hats, like the one I wear today and every day, quickly expanded to producing other fashion accessories, as well as a whole range of clothing products for men and women, all made in different communities around the globe. The vision that I have is for a human-centric fashion industry, one where every consumer could know directly the individual who crafted their garment. And this is more than a nice idea. This is a reality. Every one of the products we've produced since 2007 has been hand-signed by the person who made it. By going online and viewing the profile of the specific maker who made their t-shirt, consumers for the first time have been able to see and know the forgotten individuals who are behind the clothes they wear. They learn about similar interests and personal dreams that are shared between them, and misconceptions formerly held begin to dissipate. In my work, I've been able to see tens of thousands of these connections take place and see the positive impacts that those have had on both individuals. And it's proven to me the power of this connection. But while connecting those who make clothes with those who wear them is one important aspect, there's more that needs to be done if we're to truly leverage fashion in an effort to better connect our world and unite us in our humanity. We must also work to foster collaboration from within the industry as well. You see, one of the things that became really clear in the first decade of our work was that the negative consequences of fashion were not only misunderstood by consumers, they were also misunderstood by the very designers, merchandisers, and owners of the commercial fashion brands themselves. That is why a core component of my work today rests in a desire to partner with other companies to help them improve their supply chain transparency and to begin celebrating the incredible individuals who are behind the products they sell. We started an entirely new platform to accomplish just this, called Known Supply. And the results from our partnerships with other fashion brands have become very clear. It's possible to do better. And in doing so, we won't only be contributing positively to a more equitable world, but there also happens to be some real business benefits in the process. We've seen product quality improve as makers begin to take pride in the value of their work. Customer bases are growing as brands begin to engage in the millions of shoppers who are looking for ethical alternatives. Waste decreases as consumers are shopping less disposable pieces. And most importantly, in my view, cross-cultural understanding increases as shoppers and makers begin to connect and learn more about one another. Knowing who made your product is an interesting, if not intriguing, concept. But I wanted to share with you all a tangible example, a story of what this has looked like in the real world. My friend Kara gifted her daughter one of our products for her birthday. And they proceeded to go online and learn more about the woman in Peru who had crafted that item. Together, they learned about the geography of South America and the unique challenges faced by women living in poor communities on the outskirts of capital cities. But they also learned something else. They learned about the specific interests of Jacqueline Barahona, the woman who made her hat. They discovered that they both loved music and enjoyed spending time with family. Kara and her daughter submitted a thank you note telling Jacqueline what an incredible job she had done making her new favorite accessory. A week later, this same young girl received another clothing item from a family member, and she immediately began inspecting that item, looking through it inside and out. Her mother, being a bit concerned, went to see if something was wrong. And that was when she came to find out that her young daughter was looking for the signature of the person who made that item as well. It wasn't there, but her expectation was. What if we all had this expectation? That we could know the individual who crafted the clothing that we wear, and that our purchases were positively impacting and improving the lives of those who made them. How would our world look different? I'll tell you. It looks like a caught Beatrice, whose circumstances in a post-conflict region of northern Uganda left her with few prospects to be optimistic about, whose income earned equated to less than $2 a day. She was a representative statistic of extreme poverty in every way, but she didn't view herself that way, and neither did we. Because of her job making clothing, the support of consumers who purchased the items she made, and most importantly, her own self-determination, Beatrice was able to discover her passion for entrepreneurship, and she started multiple businesses. As a result, she was able to send her children to the best schools in Uganda and through the highest levels of education, and she even began providing job opportunities to others within her community. All because shoppers thought a little more consciously about the products they purchased and the companies they chose to support. So the next time you're getting dressed, I want you to think about the way your clothing connects you with the world around you and the person who made it. Choose to see others and to recognize our goals, our ambitions, and ultimately our collective success is bound up in one another. Or as I like to say, who makes it matters.